You ever move somewhere thinking it's going to be peaceful, only to realize that your idea of quiet country living is someone else's personal concert hall? I moved to the swamp to find peace, real, bone deep silence. I thought I'd finally left behind the chaos of city life, the traffic, the sirens, the crowded streets. Out here, it was supposed to be different. Just me, the trees, and the sound of my own heartbeat echoing through the night. But that dream ended one morning with a bass line so loud it shook the coffee mug off my nightstand. That was the day I met my neighbor. And that was the day I decided to teach him what silence really sounds like. Before I go on, if you've ever had that neighbor, the one who tests your patience, your sanity, and your speakers, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to Revenge Flame, because this is one of those stories where karma screams louder than the music. When I moved out to the rural swamplands, I was chasing peace. My old apartment was in one of those overpopulated suburbs where you can hear every sneeze, every argument, every midnight party. I'd had enough. So I sold my place, packed up my dog, my truck, and what was left of my patience, and drove 2 states away. The new house sat on 3 acres of mossy land, isolated, surrounded by cypress trees and the constant hum of cicadas. The kind of place where silence has weight, where you can actually hear your own thoughts again. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. There was just one neighboring property, a smaller plot half my size. Their house sat toward the road, mine deeper in the back left corner. We were a few 100 feet apart, separated by forest and open land. Or so I thought. Because apparently, distance doesn't matter when your neighbor believes the entire world needs to hear his playlist. It was around 6 in the morning. The swamp air was thick and gray, mist curling around the trees. I was still half asleep when I heard it, a banging sound so loud it felt like someone was hammering on my front door. I jumped up, threw on a shirt, and went outside. But no one was there. Then I heard it again. A deep, pulsing boom, 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 echoing through the woods. It wasn't knocking. It was bass. Spanish rap music, blaring so loud it made the birds scatter from the trees. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind people enjoying music, but this was different. We're talking hundreds of feet away, and still I could feel the ground vibrate. I followed the sound toward the neighbor's property. That's when I saw him. The dad, shirtless, pacing around his front yard, while his teenage sons revved up dirt bikes beside the house, music blasting from massive outdoor speakers. It looked less like a backyard hangout and more like a low-budget music festival. I had already tried being friendly. A few days earlier, I'd walked over while he was mowing the lawn just to introduce myself, new neighbor courtesy. He looked at me, then turned away and kept mowing. Didn't even kill the engine, didn't wave, nothing. That told me all I needed to know. My builder had also mentioned that this family's kids had been riding dirt bikes on my land, even during construction. Apparently, they trashed the property once, threw garbage, toilet papered the framing, the whole juvenile rebellion act. The crew had lost the full day cleaning it up. So yeah, they weren't exactly the welcome to the neighborhood type. Still, I'm not someone who likes drama. So I walked over, calm as I could be, and knocked on their door. No answer. I could see movement through the window, silhouettes, shadows, but they ignored me. Then one of the kids, maybe 17, came out of the garage, phone in hand, blasting the same music. "Hey," I said, raising my voice to be heard. "Can you turn that down? It's shaking my windows." He looked at me, smirked, and turned the volume up. That smirk, God, I'll never forget it. That was the moment something inside me, that last little flicker of patience, snapped. When you live out here, silence is sacred. It's not just sound, it's peace, it's sanity. It's what you move here for. So when someone takes that from you, when they deliberately destroy the quiet you've built, you start thinking of ways to take it back. I went home, sat on my porch, and thought, I could call the cops, but I already knew how that would go. Noise complaint in a rural county, they'd show up hours later, give a half-hearted warning, and drive off. And I'd be the problem neighbor from then on. No, this called for something better, something poetic, something loud. Here's the thing about me. I'm a bit of a car audio enthusiast. Back in my 20s, I spent weekends customizing my truck's sound system. 4 subwoofers, 12 inchers, precision tuned with enough power to make your heartbeat stutter if you stood too close. The kind of system that can make a parking lot shake. So that morning, I grabbed my keys. If this guy wanted to start a sound war, he was about to lose it. I drove my truck right up to the property line, parked, and let the engine idle. His music was still thumping, the same generic bass-heavy track looping endlessly. So I smiled, reached for my playlist, and queued up a song I knew would make his little sound system cry for mercy. Raining Blood by Slayer. I cranked the volume. The opening guitar screeches ripped through the still morning air like a thunderstorm. The bass kicked in, deep, violent, unapologetic, the kind of sound that doesn't just hit your ears, it crawls under your skin and shakes your ribcage. 15 minutes. I sat there for 15 glorious minutes, drinking my coffee, watching the birds flee in confusion. The other music stopped after maybe a minute, but I kept going, just long enough to make a point. When I finally turned it off, the silence that followed was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. No shouting, no bass, no dirtbags, just the wind and the cicadas. And that was the moment I knew he got the message. It's been weeks since that morning. Not a single note of music has come from that house. They mow their lawn quietly now. The kids still ride, but they stay on their own property. Once I caught the dad looking at me from across the field, just staring like he was trying to decide whether to start something. He didn't, because he knew. This wasn't the city. There were no cops, no noise ordinances, no social media fights, just 2 men and a mutual understanding written in bass frequencies. You know, I didn't do it because I wanted to start a war. I did it because some people only understand boundaries when you show them how it feels to be on the other side. He invaded my peace, so I returned the favor, just once. After that, silence wasn't just the background noise anymore. It was victory. Maybe that's what real revenge is sometimes. Not about hurting someone, but making them understand what they've been doing to others. And if that lesson happens to come wrapped in Slayer's finest guitar solo, well, that's just poetic justice. If this story gave you chills, made you laugh, or reminded you of that one neighbor you'd love to blast Slayer at, smash that like button. Tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying petty revenge you've ever pulled off? And of course, subscribe for more stories like this, only on Revenge Flame. Because sometimes the quietest victory comes after the loudest fight.